looking to play with something a little different today, and I don't know if it's really considered play, but I got this table off a coworker. Nice and cheap, good solid, makes some noise. I might have to sound deaden it, but boy, there's no wiggle in it. Anyway, the lathe, the bench that's under the lathe over there, that's way too tall for me. Voila. Okay, now the question is if I set the lathe back that way and have some working space here, it's impossible to look over it. So it has to be up to the front, okay? That actually gives me room in the back to, I can put the computer and the controller up on top and maintain, you know, the shelf space underneath. But the other thing too is I'm right-handed, and I noticed that with the way that was set up, the other bench or whatever, with the I noticed that the way the other bench was set up, this was all the way to the right, and that meant that the mouse and the controller and all that stuff had to be over here. So, you know, I'm kind of thinking about putting it over here, and you know, that leaves me some room for a mouse pad right here, and I'm kind of thinking that I'll put a shelf or something over it so that I can put the monitor up higher, because this is going to be a whole lot lower now. You know, before the monitor was like right in my face. So, and you can see I'm taking roughly about 5 inches off the each of the legs there. Part of that distance is going to be taken up with the casters and the adjustable legs. I think I'm going to, at first I was going to make adjustable casters, and then I decided, you know, when I roll it out of the hole against the wall, the floor is real uneven over there, and I don't want it. I want to roll it out to a flat spot and just simply have to move the adjusters up, and I don't want it sitting on the casters because it'll vibrate and shimmy around and stuff like that. So anyway, this is the progress so far. I'm going to flip it over, take each of the other 2 legs off, cut them. I've got the angle iron, which is way overkill, sitting up there. Got to clean that up a little bit and weld it on. And I'm taking these little truss head self-tapping screws, and I'm leaving them stick out just a little bit, so that way I don't run the cutter into the chuck jaw. I'm not cranking them down too tight because I don't want to screw up the threads too bad or anything. So, and I'm shaving the head off. So I got to do that to about 24 of them. I'm just shaving the top off these 1/4 bolts here. I'm shaving them down to 1/8 of an inch. I'll show it later as to why they're for the bench. So. Been working on the new bench for the lathe table, and most of it's just been, you know, measuring, drilling, boring, you know, cutting and stuff like that. The vast majority of the time has just been sitting around, you know, scratching my head going, how do I want to do it? Okay, so one of the challenges here is this is just a sheet metal top. Okay, now I've punched these 2 holes in. When I had it laying down, standing up, I centered the drip pan, chip tray, whatever you want to call it, on the table where I wanted it, okay? And it had the 2 holes, the 4 holes for the mounting. So I marked those, drilled those down from the top, okay? The challenge is that it's a good bit of weight. I believe 350, maybe 400 pounds of, it can't be that much. Anyway, let's say, you know, several hundred pounds. With those that closely bolted, I don't want the sheet metal to flex and let the lathe rock back and forth, okay? So what I'm doing here is I've got some pretty thick wall, 3/16. That is just, you know, scrap I've picked up over the years and that stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to notch it a little bit here for the thing. But basically, I'll set that in over the holes there, okay, and then from the top side, I'll use those as the guides, and I'll drill the holes down through, and then I'll open them up to the final dimension. And I'll take all the paint off, and then I'll tack this down the sides all the way down and at the ends. And basically that'll give me support all the way across. So when I bolt that lathe down tight there, I'll have a leverage all the way across. So that's what I'm working on there. Hopefully I can get that done. Well, I got it marked out, top and bottom, so that, you know, I get an idea, because I don't really want to have to grind everything here. It's just going to be tack welds. If it gets hot enough, it burns the paint here, you know, torque metal, I really don't care. But I do want it gone from where I'm going to be cutting. So I've just got the, I think this is a 5-inch, 3, 4.5, 5.5 inch pads. High-speed sander. These use a lot of air. Not necessarily the best option, but it's taking the paint off nice and quick. Alright, so it'd be pretty darn hard to get clamps in here to hold this. So what I'm hoping is that these magnets have enough strength. And it looks like they do. Now I have a mark at the 1 inch. You know, I don't really need a mark below it. I just need a reference of where, and that gets me close enough so I can hold it against there and tack it in a couple spots. There's a little bit of play there. Let's see if I can give it a reach around. I'm going to try to hold it in with one arm and tack with the other. Well, that seems to be working, but I ran out of arm, so I gotta move to the other side. I don't really need the magnet, but it helps keep my hand in position, you know, because once it's on there, it doesn't slide around too much. So. Now, you know, I could have drilled a bunch of holes on the bench and tacked that down from the top side, but this puts my the forces and stuff like that, puts it further out instead of, you know, being in here, being closer together. Spreads the load out further, and it keeps it to where, you know, I've got some burn marks on the top, but I don't have a bunch of Rosetta welds or whatever that I have to grind down flat. So, well, it looks like I do have bumps there. Let's see. Yeah, nothing that's really going to affect anything, but I will hit them with the and they're hot. So definitely good penetration there, but I'll hit them with the sanding disc there and knock them down just a little bit. Not that it'll affect anything for what this is doing. I've done this before too. This is a grinding disc, and I use it for sanding. Not exactly proper use. Just don't put a whole lot of force on it, okay? It takes the paint off really quick. It gets into the tight corners and stuff like that. Lasts longer than sanding discs. You just got to watch that you don't put too much side load on it. Show that as an option because a lot of guys will have cut-off wheels and die grinders, but they won't have one of these high-speed sanders. They're fairly cheap, but you know, it's another set of discs you got to get and all that kind of crap. The other side's still pretty warm there. I'll hold it down on the ground there so it doesn't bounce, but give you an idea here. This is more or less what we started with. Okay. See how much that flexes. Okay, we don't want the lathe rocking back forth. How about that? There, it's like none. So I'll drill the holes all the way through, enlarge them up to the 1/2 inch I need. I'll probably hit them with a disc sander real quick. The spacing on the shelves here, drew a line and then scribed a line in, so all the ends will be the same. The other end will be dictated by the length of the slide. So the reason for, I'm going to use self-tapping screws, but I drilled a pilot hole because I know with the center punch and I can drill the pilot hole accurately with that nice sharp little drill bit. With the trying to hold the slide on there and use a self-drilling screw, I won't necessarily be able to get that as accurate. So the pilot hole is to help with the accuracy. And it'll also make it easier on me physically to not have to fight with it to get it to drill in. And that got a pretty good bite because it's holding it just with that one screw and all the weight's at the other end. Nice. So one of the few advantages of the round column is this. I don't want to, I need to drill a bunch of holes, okay, and just for accuracy and stuff like that, it'd just be a whole lot easier to run it back and forth and do it on the mill. Now I could figure out something and put a stop under here and have some support under here, but it'll still be rigid enough to drill with. So I've loosened up the head. It'll actually, you know, what I can do is I can actually rotate the column over to where it'll reach that. Okay, and I can tighten it down there. And then I can actually run back and forth. I actually have it tight up against the stop there, so let's get it off the stop and see if we can get a little bit more room. Yep. Okay. So I'll tighten the head back up, and this isn't critical right now. You know, I can move this wherever. So I just have to have it fairly close. I already checked to make sure I had the head of the mill over far enough. Let me make sure I tighten up the other bolt there. So this just has to be close. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten it down there. Put that in there. Let's go ahead and tighten it up. Now I have a parallel in there. I'm tight, and it's still slipping, which means I need something in there thinner than that parallel. Okay, let's go find something. I found a little scrap piece of aluminum there, basically, and that'll be close enough. All right, this is what I'm trying to do here. These are the rails for the drawer slides for the lathe bench and stuff like that. So you could always drill the first one carefully, and then take the second one, you know, and just lay it up like that, and just put some vice grips on it. You could use a transfer punch, or you could just use the first one here as your drill guide. Okay, just set it down on a table and clamp, or even for that matter, you know, put them in the vise like that, and then just use that as the drill guide. 6 1/2 dozen of the other. I've got the 1/4-20 tapped up in the adapter here. The 3/8 impact does a beautiful job of running the taps in. Now I'm going to try it real quick, just without any lube, just out of curiosity. It's just mild steel. It's not bed frame. If it was bed frame, it'd be hardened. Now normally you'd want to use lubricant to make it last longer and stuff like that, but you know, I have a bunch of those taps. It's an old one I've gotten a lot of life out of, so I'm really not too worried about it. That works real nice. So on to the next one.